My name is Gregory, and this is not my story. It belongs to my old friend Ian, a man I respected deeply, someone whose word carried weight because he wasn't the type to exaggerate. Over the years, he told me this particular story many times, always in the same quiet, unsettled tone. Eventually, I asked him to write it down in detail. He agreed and gave me permission to share it, because while he never claimed to understand what happened, he admitted it was the one experience in his career that changed him forever. Ian wasn't just any contractor. He was in his early 50s then, solid build, skin hardened by decades working in salt air. He'd been a diver, a marine technician, a salvage worker, even did inspections for government contracts. He knew the ocean and its structures better than most. When he spoke about work, it was clear he'd seen everything from rusting ships to underwater pipelines. So when he told me what happened in 2013, I had no reason to doubt him. That year, a county in Washington state hired him to assess an old decommissioned lighthouse. The property had sat abandoned for years, perched alone on a rock island about an hour off the mainland. Developers wanted it torn down, preservationists wanted it saved, and nobody wanted to pay for either. Ian's job was simple: go out there alone, examine the place inside and out, and write a report on whether it was safe enough to restore. The island was barely more than a lump of stone, maybe 300 feet across, with nothing on it. But the lighthouse, a generator shed, and a scattering of rusted scaffolding from long-gone maintenance crews. No docks, no houses, no birds even. Just a ledge where the Coast Guard could drop someone off at high tide. Ian went out with only the basics food for 4 days, a sleeping bag, his tools, a clipboard, and a two-way marine radio. The plan was straightforward: arrive Monday, finish inspection by Wednesday, and call for pickup Thursday afternoon. When he first landed, the weather was grey and calm. The lighthouse stood tall, about 50 feet high, built in the early 1900s, with the classic spiral staircase winding upward to the beacon room. The glass lens had long gone dark, but the tower itself still looked sturdy. Ian spent the first day doing what he always did: checking beams, stairs, floorboards, and window fittings. The lower level was warped but usable. The second floor was empty storage. The third had an old sleeping quarter, unused for decades. Ian chose to sleep near the generator room on the ground floor, where it was warmer and shielded from the wind. That first night was uneventful. What stood out to him, though, was the silence. No gulls, no insects, not even waves slapping against the rocks. Just still air. He said it was the kind of silence that felt wrong, as if the world itself had pressed pause. On the second day, fog rolled in. Thick fog. Ian described it as unlike any he'd ever seen. So dense it looked solid, a wall of white where the horizon should have been. But fog wasn't unusual in that part of Washington, so he went about his work, climbing the staircase to check the upper levels. That's when he noticed something strange. Halfway up the spiral stairwell was a built-in maintenance closet. On his first day, it had been stuck shut, rust locking it in place. But now it stood open a crack, maybe an inch. Curious, Ian forced it wider with his flashlight. Inside, tucked into the far corner, sat a wooden box, about the size of a lunchbox, damp and covered in moss, as if it had been pulled from the sea. He didn't open it, just noted it and closed the door again. That night, he woke suddenly, not to a noise exactly, but to the lack of one. Then came the footsteps, metallic, deliberate, on the staircase above him. At first, he thought an animal had found its way in, until he realized the steps weren't coming down. They were going up, climbing toward the beacon room. Ian lay frozen with his flashlight on the stairwell entrance, waiting for something to appear. Nothing did. The sound faded, and silence returned. By morning, he searched the tower top to bottom. No intruder, no animal, nothing except the box. Only now it had moved. It sat halfway out of the closet into the stairwell, moss still clinging to it. Against his better judgment, he picked it up. It was heavy, waterlogged, sealed shut with nails. He left it at the base of the stairs, unsettled, and stepped outside for air. That's when he saw them. Footprints. Bare, wet footprints circling the lighthouse. 10 or 12 impressions in the mud, leading from the north wall toward the cliff edge and then stopping abruptly at the sheer drop into the sea. No return tracks, just an unfinished path into nothing. That night was worse. Around 1:30 a.m., the beacon room door slammed shut, so hard it shook the tower. Then came the knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the inside wall, as if someone was standing inches behind the plaster. Ian said he didn't move, didn't breathe, until the sound stopped. The next morning, the box was gone, and the closet door stood wide open. That was enough. He radioed for immediate extraction, claiming a medical emergency. The fog was so thick they could barely promise a pickup, but a boat would try. Ian packed his things and sat by the landing ledge all day. The fog never lifted. By evening, he heard footsteps again, this time in the gravel behind him. He turned, but saw only white mist. He ran to the cliff and stayed there until, finally, a boat horn sounded in the distance. They pulled him out after dark. Back on shore, he filed a short report, declaring the structure unsafe, unfit for restoration. He never mentioned the box, the footsteps, or the knocks. Maybe, he told me later, because he feared he'd gone mad in isolation. But he never returned to fieldwork after that. Within a year, Ian left the sea behind. When I asked him directly if it was because of the lighthouse, he only shrugged. Then he said something I'll never forget. Some places are meant to be left alone. They just need time and silence. I tried to find records of that lighthouse. County documents list a decommissioned tower somewhere off the coast. But no name, no official coordinates, nothing substantial. As if Ian had never been there at all. And that, honestly, is the part that chills me most. Not what Ian claimed to see, but how little evidence exists that the place itself was ever real.